Hey, what's up photo friends and family? Hope everybody's doing well, had a good holiday, rolling into 2025 in a positive and chill fashion. So what I want to get into today is talking a little bit about a camera that is a recent acquisition for me, which is my Fuji X20. Got this camera probably about 2 months ago and have been actively shooting with it since then. It's a comparable piece of equipment that I already have. It's comparable to another piece of equipment that I already have, which is my Fuji X100. So this is the original Fuji X100 FinePix. Shoot with this camera a lot, love it so much. Talked about it on the channel. But let's talk about this Fuji X20 and maybe how it is different and compares to that X100. And so I just kind of want to touch on this real quick and get into it, because I do love this camera as an alternative to my X100. So what we get from this camera is a camera that's a bit newer than the X100. 2011 release on that X100, 2013 release on this X20. Image stabilized, yes. Variable focal length range, yes. More compact form factor, yes. Lighter weight, yes. Fuji optics, yes. Pretty fast lens too, considering the focal length range. So what we've got here is a 28 to 112, which gives you quite a bit of range out of this lens. And we're looking at Fuji optics, so we know we're winning. And we're looking at an aperture, range that is typical of a zoom lens with a 2.0 to a 2.8 through that focal length range, which is nice and fast. And one of the things that drew me into getting this camera in the first place. Optical viewfinder, yes. EVF, no. So the X100 supports an EVF, which I do like that EVF, but lots of nice heads-up information through the optical viewfinder, and it does, it's a tunnel viewfinder, so as I move through that focal length range, my viewfinder is giving me a sense of that zoom range. But the thing to remember when you're talking about the optical finder on this particular camera is that you're covering maybe 80% of your total shot. So you really need to think about that when composing, when using the optical viewfinder. A cute little pop-up flash, ugh, love that guy. And it really contributes to the smaller form factor because there's a switch on the back that pops that thing up. Hot shoe, yes. Command dial on the top really just moves you through different kind of modes with the camera. I'm primarily shooting in a manual mode. And so no mechanical switches on this, which is very different than the X100. So on my X100, I have a big command dial on the top that I can put my thumb on and move through my shutter speeds. And at the base of the fixed 35mm equivalent on my X100 is my aperture ring, which I can clock through, tick through. And so there's a much more manual camera feel for me coming out of the experience with the X100, less so with this rig. So what I've done is I've created command dials to manipulate my shutter speed, and my apertures are on the back of the camera here. I've set a hot button, which is one of my function buttons on the top, to manipulate my ISO. RAW, yes. Fuji film simulations, yes. So the camera really just runs right alongside the X100 as far as what is it doing and how is it feeling as a Fuji premium point and shoot. It's feeling very much the same, but in a smaller form factor with that variable focal length. The sensor inside the camera has to be smaller in order for the camera to be smaller. So, okay, yeah, get and gives, which is basically what we're always looking at with camera equipment, right? So I'm not pushing ISO on this camera much past 5 to 800 because images are really tough to feel good about on that higher ISO range, just because the sensor's smaller and it's not doing as good of a job. Also, when you're talking about prime lenses versus variable focal length lenses, are you going to get the same kind of sharpness and the same kind of image quality? No. You're not. It's just the nature of the beast that a prime lens is going to give you better image quality. But the gains from the variable focal length are just tremendous, and I love them so much. So nice wide frames, and then giving me some reach in the event that I can't move myself physically, around to create those types of frames. So overall, really just a great little smaller version of that X100 kind of camera with some gains, but you have to recognize there are some sacrifices as well. Would I encourage folks to consider getting this camera? Heck yes, I would, and it's a pretty affordable camera if you can find them out there as well. We have that kind of similar Kaiser, whoops, that's the wrong lens cover. Kaiser style lens cover, which fits on here. The ergonomics of the camera overall, pretty good. Like I said, when I, have this camera up to my face and I'm having to use those soft buttons on the rear for my adjustments, it makes me want to kind of shoot this camera more live view. So I find myself shooting with this camera much less through the rangefinder viewfinder and much more as a live view camera, which is kind of a unique experience for me, and I'm appreciating it. I don't shoot that way on basically any of my cameras unless I'm creating, particular types of frames where I can't use the viewfinder. But viewfinders are really my jam. Framing and composing through the viewfinder is like where I like to be, but I am learning how to use this as a live view camera. And then when you're using it as a live view camera, your LCD screen on the back is giving you a true representation of your frame. So what you're seeing is what you're shooting, which is pretty great. So, do I like the camera? Yes. Do I like it as an alternative to my X100V? Yes. Do I still like my X100V? Yes. Which one do I like better as a camera? It's very circumstantial. I do like the heft of this camera. It's kind of like one of my OG Fuji loves, and so there's always going to be a special place in my heart for this original X100. But this X20 has been super fun, and I've loved it so much. And shooting with it has been pretty great. I've been posting lots of content from images that I've been capturing. So anyway, hope everybody has a good one and enjoys this little comparison between these two cameras. They're both amazing and I love them both lots, and hope that y'all have a great one, and I'll catch up with everybody soon. Peace out.